everyone. Russia continues to lie about Ukraine's strike on a building in Luhansk. And again, my message to them, if you don't want your building struck, don't put your military in there. I'm just saying, don't put your drone control centers there, don't put your officers there, don't put your supplies there, don't put your soldiers there. You see my point. Better yet, get the fuck out of that region altogether. Nobody wants you there. And yeah, of course, they are calling a UN Security Council meeting, and UN is going to pretend to be concerned. I don't know why anybody there is still falling for Russia's bullshit. A few years ago, there were some excellent rebuttals to the Russian delegation by, I think it was by the Albanian ambassador. And I want that guy back. I loved that guy. He was awesome. He basically had the guts to stand up in the middle of the UN and say, y'all, this is crap. Are we seriously going to have another meeting about Russia accusing Ukraine of creating mutated mosquitoes or militarized geese? I miss that dude. I need him. He was good for the soul. Meanwhile, the Czech president, Petr Pavel, is one of the ones who is saying, NATO, stop fucking around. Stop. How many times does Russia have to toe the line before you finally do something about this? So he was pointing out, look at all the drones in the NATO airspace. Look at all the bits and pieces of stuff falling into the NATO space. What are we waiting for? Also, this is something I like, by the way. I like it when somebody not just points out a problem, but also suggests solution. So he came with proposals. He talked about possibly switching Russia's internet, cutting off Russia's banks from the global financial systems entirely, shooting down jets that violate Allied airspace instead of just saying, hey guys, can you please come back home? Can you please go home? I agree with him. Again, had there been just one or two instances of this, fine. But this is happening multiple times a month for many months now. Again, when is enough enough? And to his point, how about those frozen funds? Just saying. Once again, there is a concern about the nuclear safety, and that is something that is not being talked about, and it should be. So once again, UN's nuclear watchdog pointed out on Friday that an electrical substation in Dnipro that was disabled due to military activity. It got struck by Russian drones. Partially disconnected the power from the nuclear power station. We talked about this many times. This is dangerous. Okay? It is very, very dangerous. Just expressing concern is not enough. I feel for the International Atomic Energy Agency because they must feel like they keep just running up against the wall and running up against the wall and running up against the wall because they themselves can't do anything. Okay? They're not in charge of any forces. They're not in charge of any armies. They're not in charge of any weapons or anything like that. All they can do is observe and report. And that has to be frustrating as fuck. So right now the firefighters are tackling the fire at the substation, but still, for now, the nuclear power plant is disconnected partially from the grid, and that is not good news. Some falling bits and pieces from the drone debris struck an oil station again at the port of Novorossiysk in Russia. And again, some damage to the technical administrative buildings there. More damage to Russia's oil industry. Always good news for that. Now, here's something interesting. So, despite the fact that Ukrainians have been fighting like crazy for the independence of their country and basically for their own existence as a people, they are not shy to express their displeasure with their government. Case in point, hundreds of Ukrainians have marched through Kyiv to demand for the government to veto a bill that would prematurely declare missing soldiers dead. Basically, this has to do with the legal status of missing persons. As you might imagine, there's a big difference between somebody missing and somebody dead. It has to do not just with their family connections, but it has to do with their professional position, their entity as a person in the country, their financial situation, etc. And especially right now, that is a very important question to consider because Ukraine's missing registry currently lists more than 90,000 people. And, well, this was to be expected. Ukraine troop members in Europe are expected to drop. Current presence is 80,000. That is going to go down. Not only did Marco Rubio say that this was going to happen, but basically he walked away from any further discussion. So it's like, this is what's happening and we're not going to talk about it anymore. I'm not surprised. This is something that I have been talking about since the first Trump administration, when I pointed out that U.S. was becoming an increasingly crappy ally and Ukraine was showing the way to the Europe of how to eventually stand on its own feet. And again, I want to remind everybody right now, Ukraine is not getting anything for free from the U.S. What it's getting, it's buying, or the European allies are buying. Ukraine is getting less U.S. intelligence. Right now, I think Ukraine is providing more intelligence than it's getting. It has been collaborating with Germany, France, and the UK to get the intelligence. It's not as advanced, it's not incomplete, but Ukraine is still able to kick Russia's butt with what they have. And again, even though I live in the United States, and I'm telling you this, U.S. is a shitty ally. Until U.S. becomes the kind of country whose alliances and whose loyalties are not tied to who is sitting in the White House, then we can talk again. Move ahead without the U.S. Don't come here. It is fucking hell here right now, especially for international visitors. It is not safe here for you. Move ahead without. And again, another case in point of U.S. being a shitty ally. There's a bipartisan group of U.S. senators that is pushing back on delays by the Department of Defense in sending security aid to Ukraine and other countries. This is something that has been already allocated. Okay, this is not anything new. This is something that was agreed upon months and months and months and months ago. And now, again, they're just not delivering. Despite the fact that when shit hit the fan in Iran, who was one of the first on the scenes? Ukraine. With strategy advice, with drone technology, with intelligence. Again, shitty ally. Move on. More to come.